What is up, my fellow Planeswalkers? It's Hermogenes, back at it again with some Magic the Gathering content for you. Today we're going to be tackling Streets of New Capenna Spoiler Showcase, my thoughts and opinions. So I won't be presenting all the spoilers that they revealed yet, but I'm going to be tackling the key parts and my thoughts on them. So these are going to be the charms, the Ascendancies, the leaders of the families, and then the Planeswalkers. All art is owned by Magic the Gathering or Wizards of the Coast. I just got them from there, so credits to them. And without any further ado, let's get into it. A brief overview on the set. So I did mention there are 5 families in Streets of New Capenna, and these 5 families represent the tricolors that we've previously had. They just renamed them in a way. So the first one, the hammer and the anvil, that's Riveters or Jund. The hand with a knife or a key is Obscura or Esper, better known as Esper. The daggers and the chalice is Maestros, or previously known as Grisx. The one with the mask is Kabareti, better known as Naya. Then there's brokers, the ones with the bird and the wings, and that is Bant. So let's get into the first part. We're going to be comparing the charms. So the first one is the Riveteer charm versus the Jund charm. So let's first read the Riveteer's charm, sorry. So you get to choose one. Target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker they control with the highest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards. And number 3, exile target player's graveyard. So that is what we're going to be getting versus what we previously had, which was the Jund charm, which is the same. So you get to choose one. Remove target player's graveyard from the game. So the third and the first ones are similar. Or Jund charm deals 2 damage to each creature or put 2 +1/+1 counters on a target creature. So level wise, they do play different roles. Riveteer charm is more on the control end. It's a spell slinging charm because you have your, instead of dealing with creatures or putting +1 buffing creatures up, it chooses to exile top 3 cards and you can still cast those. So it's a pseudo draw for red, green, and black. So actually, I feel like this got mixed up. When I see Riveteer's charm, I think it should be something more creature based. So I think I would have understood if it did do the +1/+1 counters, or it deals 2 damage to each creature because it follows the colors more. But for this one, honestly, I have a bias for aggro cards, so I think Jund charm is pretty good. But then Riveteer charm is a lot harder to deal with. I would not want to deal with it because you have a 3 to cast sack card. It makes a person, let's say enchantments. They put down enchantments, you can make them sack a buffed up creature. Or it's not as good versus like small white weenie decks, I guess, but Jund charm would be a lot stronger against white weenie. But that's my take. So I think Riveteer charm is strong, especially in this meta where everyone has every deck revolves around 1 key card only. I think Riveteer charm is strong. But then if we do see the rise of aggro and white weenie decks, or just decks that build wide, Jund charm is your best bet. Okay, moving on. The Obscura charm and the Esper charm. So Obscura charm first. So we get to choose one. Return target multicolored permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's the first one. Second is counter target instant or sorcery spell. It's a negate, a 3 mana negate. Actually, not even. It's not even. It doesn't say non-creature, so it's like a null, I think. A null just counters instants though. Destroy, and the third one is destroy target creature planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. So basically, each of these effects or abilities represent one color of each of the Obscura charm. So white has the return from the graveyard, black has destroy target creature, and blue with the counter. Same goes with Esper charm. So choose one, destroy target enchantment, draw two, or target player discards two. I'd say it's not as basic, but I'd say Esper charm beats out Obscura charm here, just because you get your removal, you get to draw two cards. I honestly think the ability to draw two cards is better than the counter target instance or sorcery spell. And target player discards two cards. It's not value. Like each of these effects, except for the destroy target enchantment though, there are 3 to cast spells. So draw two cards is a 3 to cast. This target player discards two cards, it's a 3 to cast too. And value wise or ability wise, I think Esper Charm is better. But value wise, Obscura Charm is pretty weak. Just because all those abilities it has is a 1 to cast ability with Blood Chief's Thirst. The one black removal to destroy target planeswalker or creature, mana value of 3. Annul is a blue 1 mana counter. And maybe the white, the return target multicolored, but then what are the odds of you getting that using that ability, using this charm, right? So Esper Charm wins this. Maestros Charm. So we're moving on to the Grixis and Maestros Charm. Maestros Charm, look at the top 5 cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Second, the ability is each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. And the third ability is Maestro's Charm, deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Versus Grixis Charm, which is choose one, return target permanent to its owner's hand, or target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn, or creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of your turn. Again, it's like we're comparing apples and oranges. I realize this is having this as our third. Is this our third? Yeah, I believe this is our third charm comparison. The powers levels or what Grixis and Maestros plan to do are completely different. Honestly, there you don't see much Grixis control. So the stuff you see but the Maestros is really on the aggro side. It has the vampires, it has vampire tribal. But then these things, it feels like these abilities or effects should be interchanged. Like Grixis Charm should be the control one. But for this one, I gotta give it to Maestro's Charm. Yeah, you can build wide. Use Grixis Charm is a removal spell, a bounce spell for 3 though. And same thing as the previous charms with the Esper Charm. These abilities are not really value. It's just it's the same ability for 3. You can find cards that do the same thing for 3 mana, and you don't even need to have 3 colors for it to work. But then in Maestro's Charm, you look at the top 5 cards of your library, instant speed. So you can have you can find a response the next turn. The Maestro's Charm can give you that pocket removal you need, or that pocket life gain, or you could just dig for answers. That's why I think value-wise, Maestro's Charm wins. So I think this is the first time that the newer version wins. But then again, yeah, Maestro's Charm is my go-to for this one. It's the better charm among the two. Now we move on to Kabareti Charm versus Naya Charm. So Kabareti Charm, choose one. Kabareti Charm deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. The second one is creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. Then the third one is create 2 green, 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. Now this one knows its identity. Like it fits the identity of Kabareti with the building wide building. There have been a lot of speculations about making citizen tribal decks. So we might see those Naya citizens, Celestia citizens, who knows. Now moving on to Naya Charm. Naya Charm, choose one. It deals 3 damage to target creature, so it's a bolt for 3. Man, return target creature from a graveyard to its owner's hand, or tap all creatures target player controls. This is a tough one, just because you know that the Kabareti is gonna be building white, so having the first one is value versus the 3. I feel like it's a lot easier to get the creatures out with this color combination. But then tap all target creatures player control tap all creatures target player controls versus giving +1/+1 and trample at the end of the turn. You're considering this one's a good game ender, but the other one is good for poke. And then creature tokens. Generate creature tokens or return target card from graveyard to its owner's hand. I think Naya Charm got it, because sure, the only thing that's better, I'd say, is the first one, where Kabareti Charm deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. Because it can remove a lot of big creatures, or it can deal more than 3 damage. And plus the planeswalker. Being able to deal with a planeswalker without attacking it is pretty good. But having access to a card, not even a permanent or non-land permanent or anything, you could get a card from a graveyard and return it to its owner's hand. And I'd say that's pretty good. That's pretty value. I'd rather have that than get 2 green-white tokens. Because you pick it up, you have an answer. It could be an instant, it could be a sorcery, it could be land. If you're against mill, you're mana screwed, you get land. And then trample versus tapping all target creatures or all creatures. Aggro wise, I'd rather tap all, but then yeah, gaining trample and +1/+1 is pretty good, just because let's say you have 5, that's an extra 5 damage that could go through if they don't have any blockers, right? But 2 out of 3, I'd say, would be Naya Charm. So yeah, Naya Charm wins this. So far, it's only been Maestros that's won from the newer set. Next is Broker's Charm versus Bant Charm. This is the last one of the five charms. So Broker's Charm, choose one. Target creature you control gets +1 until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. Okay, very very green. Destroy target enchantment and then draw 2 cards. Versus Bant Charm, destroy target artifact, put target creature on the bottom of owner spell, and counter target instant spell. These suck. I'm not gonna lie, these suck. But I would say, like, these are like, as I'm saying this, like, do note that again, these cards come from different or varying sets. So Magic the Gathering tends to power down instead of scale in terms of making new cards. So it's pretty obvious, like as I mentioned. That's why the old charms were beating the new charms, just because they were power level wise, they're a lot better. Because how Magic the Gathering does their cards, at least how I understand it, is they don't make cards overpowered. They actually nerf cards. That's why back then you had Faithless Looting for 1 mana. Now you only have Tormenting Voice for 2 mana. Those kinds of things. They have to rebalance as they go down through the years. So it's not like in Yu-Gi-Oh or any other trading card game where they scale up. They want to make cards better. So if you were to fight cards from the old set versus the set now, the power levels of majority of the old cards is way better or is way better than the cards now. For example, would be like Lava Spike and Lightning Bolt versus Lightning Strike. So these two are 1 mana, deal 3 damage, versus Lightning Strike, which is a 2 cast for 3 damage as well. Just to put it out there. So for these one, they both suck. I don't want to choose a winner, but I'd say I'd rather get the draw from destroying target enchantment and draw, just because it's very relevant in meta. So I would choose Broker's Charm. So two for the new wave of charms, 3 for the old wave. But then again, these are just my thoughts and opinions, not having seen, or I believe the set has not been fully released yet, so we don't know how crazy powerful these cards are. But yeah, hopefully we get to see more tricolor decks in the meta that aren't Control or Naya. Kabareti. Okay, so let's move on to our Ascendancies and leaders of the families. Starting off with the Ascendancies. So we have Riveters Ascendancy. Whenever you sack a creature, you may return target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tap. Do this only once each turn. Like right off the bat, if you just read the first sentence, you get a sack outlet. An easy sack outlet. But I'm also, aside from seeing this in standard, like I'm not just looking at this as a standard perspective. I'm also looking at it in the commander perspective, since that is the other format I play. I also play EDH. Riveters Ascendancy, I do not see myself playing it in Jund, just because you can only do it once. There's no way to abuse it, or there's no way to abuse it. You could probably play it in a graveyard deck, but then how do you bring out a big creature, right? So Riveteer's Charm is for me. Broker's Ascendancy. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty good. Not gonna lie, that's pretty bad compared to Riveteer's Ascendancy. Broker's Ascendancy is OP. Being able to, it's a Luminarch Aspirant for 3 mana. An Alchemy Luminarch Aspirant. For those who don't know, in Alchemy, Alchemy is a Magic the Gathering Arena format where they balance or nerf cards for the digital platform. So what they did with Luminarch Aspirant, instead of the +1/+1 counters appearing or being placed before combat, it puts the +1/+1 counters at the end step. So this one is just Luminarch Aspirant on steroids for 3 mana, and you get to put it on Planeswalkers too. This is a really strong card compared to Riveteer's Ascendancy, which is just bad. And I see this being played in Commander, especially Commander, or maybe even some Super Friends decks. I don't know, maybe 5-color Super Friends, or I don't even, you might be seeing this in 5-color Super Friends or tricolor Super Friends, especially the one that summon creatures. So yeah, hope to see someone brew that. Maybe I'll brew it. I don't know. It's gonna cost a lot of wild cards though. But yeah, I see this really strong. Let's move on to the third Ascendancy, Maestros Ascendancy. During each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a creature in addition to paying its other cost. If a spell cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So it's a 3 to cast. Basically, you get to flashback one creature. You get to flashback one spell from your graveyard. Like, I see this as mid, Just because I don't know how Maestros Ascendancy is gonna play. Because right here, it's talking about spell slinging, but then it also requires you to sacrifice a creature. So how are you supposed to be building? Are you building it mid-range? Actually, Grix is mid-range, not bad. But how are you gonna be getting your fodder, your creatures to be sacking, to be casting these spells? So I don't see it. I don't see it being played. Like right now, top of head, I don't see it being played as much in standard or in EDH. But we'll see. So far, among these three, the most playable one in both standard and commander would be Broker's Ascendancy. Especially if you drop a Vorinclex and that just doubles everything. But then that's just me brewing. The last two are Obscura Ascendancy and Kabareti Ascendancy. So Obscura Ascendancy, whenever you cast a spell, if its mana value is equal to 1 plus the number of soul counters on Obscura Ascendancy, put a soul counter on Obscura Ascendancy, then create a 2/2 White Spirit token with flying. As long as there are 5 or more soul counters on Obscura Ascendancy, spirits you control get +3/+3. I like this. I do want to see Esper Spirits come back. So let's read that again. Whenever you cast a spell, okay, so it doesn't have to be instant sorcery, non-land, just a spell. If its mana value is equal to +1 the number of soul counters on Obscura Ascendancy, put a soul counter on Obscura Ascendancy. So it begins with 0. So it has to be equal to. So you have to have a bunch of 1 drops, 2 drops, 3 drops, 4 drops. Right? Yeah. So I like what it does, but then they did balance it in a way that has to be equal to. So I have, after you cast this, you have to cast a 1 to cast Spirit, and then a 2 to cast Spirit, and then a 3 to cast Spirit, and then a 4 to cast Spirit, if I'm understanding it right. Yeah. If you get 4, it means there's gonna be 4, and then 5, you need to cast a 6 to cast, right? Yeah. So you're not gonna be. This is a good Lord, pseudo Lord, but you're not gonna be playing this unless you have like a 6 to cast Spirit. You're not gonna be getting the 5 or more soul counters unless you have 6 to cast Spirits. Unless you play Vorinclex, but then there's no green on Obscura, right? So this is a commander card, probably, but not gonna be played in standard. Moving on. Kabareti's Ascendancy. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature planeswalker card, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. If you don't put the card into your hand, you may put it at the bottom of your library. Okay. So a 3 to cast, scry. And I'd say this is like a hard second. Just because, you get to untap, upkeep, draw. So if you like the card, you can scry it. You're basically scrying it. If you don't put it, you can put it on top, you can put it at the bottom. So it's a free scry before the draw. So, but then it's a scry only if it's not a creature planeswalker. So this is good for filtering. I see this being played in Naya, or sorry, we should call them Kabareti humans now, right? I see this being played in Kabareti humans. I see this being played more in standard than commander, honestly. So with that being said, let's rate all the ascendancies. Starting bottom of the tier would be Riveters Ascendancy. Then close second would probably be Maestros Ascendancy. So 5th place, Riveters. 4th place, Maestros Ascendancy. 3rd place would be Obscura Ascendancy. Just because it's 3rd place or in the middle doesn't mean it's good. just because I can see it being value. It knows what it does. Obscura Ascendancy knows what it does, but then it's just so hard to make it work unless you play it in Commander. Next would be Kabareti Ascendancy, because you can play, just because you can play it in Standard, and you can. It's a scry. It's a draw. It's pretty much good for deck fixing. And my first place is Broker's Ascendancy. It can be played both in Standard and in Commander, and +1/+1 counters and a loyalty counter extra. And then it's in the colors where you can proliferate, or you could double counters on certain cards. So yeah, that's my rankings for all 5 ascendancies. Then now we go to our lords, the families, the leaders of the families. So we have Jetmir, Nexus of Revels, which is the head of the Kabareti family. We have Lord Xander, the Collector, the head of the Maestros family, and Rafine Scheming Seer, which is the head of the Obscura family. Okay, so Jetmir, Nexus of Rebels. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. That's easy. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and trample as long as you control 6 creatures. Creatures you control also get +1/+0 and have double strike as long as you have 9 or more creatures. This is a fun card to play with. Like, I could see myself running this in an enchantment Naya deck. Enchantment Kabareti deck. Just because you could use it doesn't say non-token creature, so you could use this. You could partner this with Hallowed Haunting, and you just have to keep casting enchantments for free, and you're gonna be able to get the creatures out. But if not, you can see this being played in Naya Humans too. You can have token generating cards, like the Felidar Landfall one, because it's in the colors. So I like this. Next is Lord Xander the Collector. Everyone's been raving about this. Like, people have been brewing a lot of commander decks around Lord Xander the Collector. So let's read it. When Lord Xander the Collector enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half the cards of their hand, rounded down. Right off the bat. If you're playing against in Commander, that is not fun to play against. Whenever Lord Xander attacks, and defending player mills half their library rounded down. And the third one is Lord Xander dies, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control rounded down. So this is, I believe, one of the best Grixis commanders or Maestros commanders out there. You won't be playing this in Standard, but you will be playing this in Commander. You could cast him by like what, turn 5, I think, roughly. If you're lucky, turn 5, turn 4, you could have him down. But then just being able to have a presence when he enters the battlefield, when he swings, you could have a Lightning Greaves on hand or a Whisper Silk Cloak on hand, giving it haste and swinging. You just end up milling the dude's hand in turn 5. Hand, deck, and life. Like, the only way to get rid of this safely would be probably exile or counter spells, because you don't want to bounce him, because when you bounce him, he's going to be cast again, then you're just going to have to deal with him again, and then he's going to discard half your hand again. So Lord Xander is by far one of the best Grixis control commanders right now, I believe. So I feel like people are gonna be playing him a lot more in Commander. He seems like a fun card to build around. Put in some Eldrazi's also, since you are looking at big creatures, but we'll see. He actually makes the mill meta work. You can partner him up with a Necrosar or something. Next, Rafine Scheming Seer, which is the head of the Obscura. Flying, Ward 1. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Draw X. Connive is draw X card, then discard X cards, put a +1/+1 creature counter on a creature for each non-land card discarded this way. So you have to draw a certain number of cards and then discard the same number of cards. And then you can put a +1/+1 card. And I think this is pretty mid. Like after seeing Jetmir, Lord Xander, Rafine the Scheming Seer is pretty meh. So that's my thoughts. Then we have our last two, which is Atora the Incinerator and Falco Spara Packweaver. So Atora is for Riveters and Falco Spara is for brokers. So let's start with Atora the Incinerator. So 6/6 for 6 flying. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, the Incinerator deals damage equal to the creature's power to any target, and you create 3 treasure tokens. Well, it is in the colors. The sacking mechanic is in the colors. And to any target. So what you can do actually, this is crazy. If you play this in standard or you play this in commander, you get like a Ren. Put out Ren 7. Get a creature, make a creature token for the number of lands you have, and you can, if you have, it's a 5 to cast and a 6 to cast. So it will be at least a 6/6 when you cast it. So Atora enters turn 6. You can sack that. Swing with the 6. Sack if it doesn't die. Sack with the 6. And then you just dealt at most 12 damage. Right off the bat. Do I see this being played in standard? Maybe. This is a big maybe. Just because it seems like a fun card to brew around. But it is a 6 to cast. With the meta right now currently being all aggro or all control. I would see this in a mid-range deck, but I don't see it being played just because I have yet to see mid-range decks make a comeback in standard. EDH, this is a fun deck to play with. You could just have all the cards that just generate. This creature has power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control, and then you could just go crazy. You could just start throwing tokens. It's like Arcade Atora the Incinerator or something. Call it that. Next is Falco Spara Packweaver. Flying and Trample. It's a 3/3 for 4. A 3/3 for 4. Flying, Trample, Falco Spara Packweaver enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. For those who don't know, a shield counter is like whenever damage is dealt to it, whatever damage or whatever it's gonna destroy, it destroys the shield counter, but it can't go against the -X effects or the exile effects. So it only works on straight damage or destroy mechanics. So with Falco Spara Packweaver, you may look at the top card of your library. Okay, yeah, very banned thing to do. You may cast spells from the top of your library by removing a counter from a creature you control, in addition to paying their other costs. For this one, I see it. I see it being played. I don't see it being played often, though. 4 to cast for 3. I don't even see this as being a commander. But, I just can't wrap my head around on how to build around this card. But having access to looking at the top of your deck is really strong. But then you're gonna have to have cards that generate you counters. So actually, you could pair this with, it pairs well with Broker's Ascendancy. So that's why Broker's Ascendancy, and you have a lot of counter generating cards in white. So you can put in training cards for this. I think like this deck will be a good card for, this card would be good for a training deck. So maybe a green white training deck with a splash of blue. Do I see it being played in Commander? Not really. In Standard? Not really as well. But yeah, these are just my thoughts and opinions and how fun, or like my, based on how my knowledge on how decks are built. So let's rate them. Let's rate the 5. So fifth place would be Rafine Scheming Seer. I do not like this card. It I do not like this card just because I don't know what it does. Like, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. I'm not sure if Esper is the one to build white, but you do you, right? So that's fifth place. I don't see it being played Commander or Standard. Next is Falco Spara Packweaver for fourth place. Could be played in Standard. Maybe there are way better banned commanders out there. Third place would be, it's pretty hard because it's a big difference between the bottom two and then the top three. I'd say Atora. The Atora, I'm not saying that it's bad just because it's third place. I see this as a fun deck to play with. Like, you could, it's like the strong arm creature where it just tosses creatures, but this one he just throws them and then you get 3 mana right after tossing them. That's pretty good. And so this one's a fun deck to play with, but build around. But then power wise, I think close second would be third and second would be Jetmir and Ziatora or Zayatora. They're gonna be the second and third, just because their win con is, it makes sense. Like, you already see it when you read it. You know how to build a deck, or you know what cards to put into it. But then more brain dead would be Jetmir, so I think that would be my second place because it already knows. Okay, I just have to build wide. I have to get this many creatures. How do I do that with all the colors that can make creature tokens, right? So Jetmir is an easy build. That's why he's in second place. But my first place is Lord Xander the Collector, just because I have a bias because I like the colors Grixis, and just because this guy is a piece of shit to deal with. Sorry for the curse, but yeah, it's a piece of crap to deal with. Having him entered and you just make a person discard his hand, half his hand, and then you have Lord Xander's milling half your deck. So he is the commander Grixis has been looking for. So again, it would be Rafine the Scheming Seer, Falco Spara, Packweaver, Ziatora, and then Jetmir, and then Lord Xander would be my first place. So lastly, we're going to go through the Planeswalkers. We have 3 so far, at least how I read it. We have Vivian on the Hunt. We have Obnixilis the Adversary and Elspeth Resplendent. So Vivian on the Hunt +2, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to +1 of sacrificed creature's mana. So this is a birthing pod, basically. Then +1 would be mill 5 cards, then put any number of creature cards mill this way into your hand. And -1, create 4/4 Rhino, Green Rhino Warrior creature token. I see this as mid. I don't see it being played as much. It's 6 to cast, so that's not fun. The only way to get value out of this would be if it was a lower mana cost. Next would be Obnixilis the Adversary, Casualty X. The copy isn't legendary and has starting loyalty X. As you cast the spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power X. When you do copy the spell, the copy becomes a token. So this one, that's pretty fun. It has the demon aspect of it that you can make more demons spawn. Each opponent loses +1. Each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or devil, you gain +2 life. -2, create a red devil creature token with when this creature dies, it deals +1 to any target. Deals 1 damage to any target creature. And -7 is pretty much Griselbrand. Target player draws 7 cards and loses 7 life. I like this. For 3 mana, that's value, dude. Like, you could have 2 Obnixilis, and then you can use +1/+1ing them, or -2, -2 one, killing it, +1 the other, and you make them discard and you gain 2 life. I see this. Who knows? Maybe Marduk control will become a thing because of this guy. But because of the 3 mana cast, this is pretty good. It's like way better than Vivian on the Hunt. And the last but not least, Elspeth the Resplendent. She's back. Choose so +1, 5 to cast for 5 loyalty counters. +1 is choose up to 1 target creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and a counter from among flying, first strike, lifelink. That's pretty good. -3 is look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card with mana value 3 or less from among them and put them on the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in any random order. And then -7, the ulti, create 5 3/3 white angel tokens with flying. So easily, third place would be Vivian of the Hunt, just because the +2 is a Birthing Pod on wheels, but it's 6 mana. So that's a no-go for me. Second would be Obnix. Like, this can be played in a variety of decks just because of the 3 to cast. It fits the 3 to cast curve. And having 2 of them on the field at the same time, that's pretty good. Next would be Elspeth the Resplendent. Number 1, just because the number 3, the -3 ability lets you filter your deck, getting an answer, and it gets a shield counter on it. So you could either look for mana, weenies, whatever. And then the +1 is so good just because you can put a flying counter, a first strike counter, lifelink counter, or vigilance counter on a certain creature. So you could protect those guys too. So yeah, Vivian of the Hunt, Obnix, and Elspeth would be my bets. And that would be it for the Streets of New Capenna spoiler showcase thoughts and opinions. If you like this kind of content, this is unedited, unfiltered, and whatnot. So what you see is what you get. If you like this kind of content, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.